Hello, and welcome to another episode of Creating Cultures That Outperform. I'm Frank Wander, the CEO, founder, board member of People Productive. I'm here with my amazing co-host, Terry Mays, certified culture engineer. We're on our new series here, Creating a Culture Without Walls. Our first episode, we got into partners. This time we're going to do breaking down the internal walls and silos. So you're up for a good episode. I hope you're really looking forward to this. And so this is a series. We have 2 more episodes. We're going to get into crowdsourcing. How do you embrace talent from everywhere? And ultimately, how could you actually think about setting up business ecosystems and even winning as one? That's a real culture without walls. Now you're tapping everything the world has to offer. And so today we're going to look at a few things. Why do silos form in organizations? How do they cost an organization in terms of their culture and collaboration? What are the strategies you can use to unify and connect teams? The leader's role in breaking down silos, and tools and rituals for cross-team success. So pretty exciting, folks. So why silos form? Tara, why do you think silos form?
Everybody kind of gets in their little group and they want to hoard and only keep their own little set of the world. So everybody is carving out their own little spaces. Sometimes it's just a byproduct of getting too big. As you're continuing to grow, people start to carve out their little worlds that they can control and manage. And, they kind of set their own guidelines and standards there. And so when you start to see that happening in the organization, the culture starts to shift a little bit, because now you've got one silo over here. And if you use these different areas, that is just a perfect example of how manufacturing, the IT department, a recently acquired company, and the marketing department, these are just examples, but they can all have their own culture going on inside of each of those segments of the organization. And so you tend to just focus in on your team and what you're responsible for, and not necessarily having a viewpoint of organization wide, that we're one team with one goal. And so once that happens, you start to see these silos form, and you see that people are segmenting off in the organization. They're not sharing information as much as they could, because they've kind of created their own ecosystem within their department or their team.
Yeah. And, it's up to the company and the executives to really pull everybody together too. They've got to have that organizational strategy. They got to make sure it's clear. You got to communicate it. And that goes a long way towards breaking down the walls, because the teams see they're part of a bigger whole. And now people are more likely to be working together. And we did a whole series on hybrid work that works. You should look at it. If you don't do it intentionally, you're going to get walls and silos. People in hybrid, work environments may feel walled off on their own, quite honestly, if they're remote.
Yeah.
And so you got to really think about this stuff.
Yeah. And you don't want to leave people out. So especially folks that are hybrid, you tend to see policies and procedures that come out and they're kind of blanket statements. But you want to make sure that you're addressing each of the different work styles for people that are in your organizations, so they don't feel like they're left out on an island.
100% right. And if you do leave on an island, it can be very costly. You can have people who are off pursuing the wrong strategy, honestly, because you haven't really aligned everybody in the organization. That can be very, very costly. You can create a very ineffective culture where people don't have a set of shared norms, or working across purposes and not collaborating in a really, really good way. So it can really affect your performance.
Yeah, absolutely. You can have, a whole different company functioning with their own set of rules and regulations. The culture as a whole just begins to suffer, because people start to feel like they're disjointed. There's, one set of goals over here, but a different set of goals over here. And then the culture just begins to suffer, because now people are trying to shift their goals and settings based on which teams they're working with. And you don't want to have that misalignment. You really want all of your teams aligned under one goal and one vision, so that everybody is cooperating and working together towards the same goals.
Yeah. And it could really affect the customer experience. If you have disjointed handoffs, things aren't aligned properly, the customer can get lost in that handoff. and could end up with a very bad customer experience. You could have one area servicing it, taking ownership, another one dropping the ball. So you got to be aligned around the customer for sure. And that's why this overarching mission is just so important.
Yeah, you don't want to have that us and them mentality. You want it to be just one team, one goal.
One team, one goal. Yep.
Yes, it reminds me of that movie, Drumline. There's a line in this movie where he says, one band, one sound. But it's like everybody has their part to play. You know, got all the different instruments that are playing their part, but they're coming together to play the same song. And that's the critical part. You've got to be doing the same for the same reasons. You've got to be moving towards the same goals. Otherwise, you have this disjointed orchestra that sounds horrible.
And I think it's a great analogy, you know, if you're, playing off a single piece of sheet music, that's the strategy. And, everybody's got an instrument to play and they're going to contribute to it. But at the end of the day, you got to make beautiful music. And some of that comes down to this unifying vision. What does shared success actually look like?
Yes, because what success looks like to one person may not look the same to another. For one group, there may be one vision of what success looks like, but then to another, it may be totally different. From a leadership perspective, success may look differently. So it's important that you sit down and you document that from the beginning. What does good in a winning team look like? What does success look like for our organization as a whole? Now, there will be separate kind of unifying visions for each of the teams because everybody has a different part to play. But you want to make sure that across all of the teams, that's everybody knows what success is. So we can't have one team succeed and one team lose because we all lose when that happens.
Yeah, and the unifying vision works really well when people get it. And stories are incredibly valuable in terms of people remembering what that kind of unified vision is. If you have a story of going somewhere, a strategy is a destination. And how do you build a really good story about it so everybody remembers it? Because that's the unifying piece. If you have a strategy, nobody can remember it. It really doesn't hang together.
Right. And it has to be kind of simple. I love the KISS principle. Keep it simple. Yeah, I love just keeping it simple, not having it too grandiose, too many words where people just simply will not remember all of it. You want to have it be something that people can grab a hold of and catch hold of the vision pretty quickly and easily.
Yeah, that goes without saying, right? You got to get the whole thing really set up. And, if you want to unify the organization, ritualizing some of the things that teams do together is very, very important. So, teams always default to just meeting and doing updates on their own, but you got to pull in everybody across these silos intentionally, do these, stand-up meetings with everybody involved. Almost like an agile team where you pull in the scrum masters, the product owners, all the people working on the development, get them all in there. And you got to do that regardless of how these silos are set up. You got to find mechanisms for pulling people together.
Yes. You want people to feel like even though they have separate responsibilities, they're still part of one team. Yep. And I keep saying that because that's really the key. If you have people that feel like they're all equally responsible for success, they all have a part to play, I'm going to do my part and rely on my team members to do their part, then now it's a nice and easy handoff from one team to the next. You can collaborate. You can easily get things done. It's not a whole lot of bureaucracy to make decisions. Things are flowing very quickly and smoothly like they should. And so that's what should be rewarded in your organization. You want to encourage that kind of collaboration and team spirit.
You got to reward it because that is a cliche for a reason. What gets rewarded gets done, no doubt about it. And you can use social media channels with more informal things to bring people together across teams. We've talked about that many different times, but social media can be very, very powerful if you set it up right.
And you can infuse fun in this area. We talk a lot about the stress that comes with a lot of our jobs and how important it is to balance that out with fun. And
No
so,
fun allowed, Terry. No fun allowed. Sorry.
yeah, cross
We're
team.
here to work, right?
This is a great area to bring in some fun. Have, a special wind down Wednesday or Tuesdays, taco days, or, something to infuse fun in there
Yeah.
where you bring things into the office. Maybe you bring donuts on Mondays or
Oh,
something like
fun
that.
unifies people like nothing else, quite honestly.
Nothing else. Food will bring you together quickly.
Yeah.
So find those little ways that you can just kind of bring in some sunshine into the group. I'm always the person that's thinking about bringing in the fun and the sunshine because it's hard. A lot of the things that we do, it's not labor intensive work, but it's brain intensive work.
Yeah.
And so while you may not be physically doing heavy labor, taxing your brain like that every day, it's a lot. There are a lot of little details that have to be handled, a lot of coordination between different groups. That can stress you as much as doing physical labor. So
And
you
that gets to this, I think, Tara,
yeah,
which is the whole notion of stewardship, right?
right, right. You want
You
to
really
move,
got to move into this, right? Where you're really a steward. We're all sharing in this whole thing, right? We all own the whole thing. It's not like we own this little piece. We own the whole thing. And so you
right,
want to be thinking company, not team. Norms like we are responsible for us, the greater whole, I think could be very valuable in terms of that. But
yeah,
stewardship's very different than ownership, right? We own the whole thing. We're stewards of this whole thing.
right. We have to come together and all be responsible for the entire thing. We can't just carve out our little piece and say, oh, I'm only responsible for this and I don't care about the rest.
Mm-hmm.
That is a recipe for disaster, especially my background is in software development. And I've done a lot of testing and development with systems. And it is the death of a project when you have people that are just focused on their little piece. They don't care about the integration. They don't care about, the downstream or upstream systems.
Yeah.
Seen many project fail because the testing didn't flow from end to end, or we found flaws in production or something like that. So you really do have to care what's happening before you and after you. And you really do have to see it as we all succeed or we all fail.
We succeed as one team. That's it.
Yes.
Big deal, And leaders, you're setting the tone. You're the tone at the top. Even if you're in the middle, you're at the top of that area. And so you've got to make it very, very clear that silos don't exist as far as you're concerned, that you work across them, everybody works across them. Demonstrate that. Break silos down. If you had a meeting and silos were a problem, you might have a wall and knock it down in the meeting.
Yeah.
And whatever you have to do to communicate, that doesn't matter. But you've got to visibly work around these silos as a leader.
Right. Often it's easy to decide, certain groups don't need to be included in these discussions. But as a leader, make it your priority to include groups that often would be neglected or left out of the conversation until later. Bring them in earlier.
Mhm.
Don't wait until it's like need to know basis. I
Yeah.
always hate that when you find out about a project that's going on and there's something that you need to do and you don't find out about it in enough time to really do it justice. And so as a leader, make sure you're including all the groups, even those groups that you think may not have impact, because I cannot tell you how many times we have left a group off of communication only to find out days before production, oh, this group is impacted. Well, if you had communicated across the entire organization from the start, it would not have been a problem.
Right.
So make sure you're bringing those groups in, even if you don't think they're impacted, just for the sake of showing that we are one team. So they're impacted indirectly, even if they don't have direct activities to complete.
Oh, yeah. And doing town halls that go beyond the normal group of people to include others. So anybody that, is touched by the things you're doing, include them so they know what's going on. Even though it takes a little time, it's worth it. Tools. You could certainly set up plenty of tools that open these communication channels up between organizations.
Yes.
Report on stuff across silos, how things are going in general, to give that feeling that the silos don't exist, that we're really all stewards of this whole thing.
That's right. Using those channels like Teams and Slack, those are just some examples of great ways that you can very easily get information out to people. Relying on email for communication really is not the best
Oh,
method.
very
Um,
poor.
Almost everybody's email box is full of junk mail.
I know. It's
You
terrible.
spend so much time, especially if you've ever attended a conference, it seems like your information has just been sold over and over again. And then if you're on social media platforms, of course, your information is out there. And so your mailbox just gets jam packed with overloads of
Yeah.
junk. And so relying on an email as a form of communication is really not the best. Not anymore. Especially when you have so many other tools that you can use for instant messaging, that we're far beyond the old BlackBerry days. I remember
Oh
those
man.
in
Yeah.
BlackBerry. That was kind of like the first exposure we had to sending instant messages. But now you've got so many other options where you can actually get a hold of people pretty quickly, and it's informal, so you don't have to worry about it being so formal like an email. You can kind of send a quick message to somebody and know that they've read the message, that they've actually seen what you're trying to communicate to them.
Yeah. Big time. And let's not forget about celebration. Everybody celebrates together. You got to pull down all of these walls and boundaries. People have to really, understand that you're celebrating success together. You're doing these shout outs across the place. Very important.
Yes, that no in crowds, that is such a very important thing to do, is to make sure that people don't feel like they have to be in the clique in order to get a promotion or to get a shout out or to even feel like they're a part of the team. You want everybody to feel like they're a part, that they don't have to be in the in crowd in order to be a part of the decision making or to have a voice. You want everybody to have a voice, because those diverse perspectives really do add to the overall solution that you're developing, any kind of programs that you're implementing. Always, always, always include those diverse perspectives, because
Yep.
somebody will see things differently than you do. And that's exactly what you want, because we all have blind spots. We all have those spots that we just don't know what we don't know. And so as you begin to bring in more ideas and more perspectives, it helps broaden and enhance whatever tool or solution that you're trying to create.
Yeah, big time. And Terry, we have 2 cartoons today.
2 cartoons. All
Yep.
right.
And so here's a real one, professional cartoon. The Department of Mystery. This is the ultimate silo cartoon. No one really knows who we are or what we do, including us. I thought that was really well done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You've always got those folks on the team and just different departments. You're like,
Yeah.
what is that? They got this crazy title and you're like, what does that really mean? So
What
what
do
do
they
you
really
really?
do? Yeah. They never seem to work with anyone. Who are they?
Yeah.
Exactly. And then I asked ChatGPT to come up with a funny cartoon. Here's what it came up with: organizational silos creating performance problems. And so this guy seems to have busted out of his silo and they're mad at him. I don't know. I don't really get it. I don't quite get this one, but I thought it was great. They're mad at him. He broke down the silo.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe this is one where they like their silos, right?
Right. They don't want anybody coming out of their silos. So
Right.
you got the people standing in line, though. That's what's throwing me off. The people
I know.
standing in line are angry, and the people at the desk are screaming.
Everybody's screaming at him, how dare you come out of your silo? That's
Yeah.
what it looks like to me. So ChatGPT thought this was organizational silos creating performance issues.
Yeah, that's funny.
So pretty funny. I think it is comical what it comes up with sometimes. It's so goofy.
Yeah.
And so join us next week. We're here every Wednesday at 3:00 for another episode. We're going to be talking about crowdsourcing. How could you actually take down walls even further? You've got partners working really well. You've eliminated silos and walls inside. Now you extend the walls of the company out even further. You're going to really do some crowdsourcing. So we'll talk about that. I think it's going to be an excellent episode. We hope to see you there. We're here every Wednesday at 3. So we look forward to you joining us for our next episode if you can. You take care now.
Yes. Bye for now.